This one's a little different. I have the toasted AVAX contract up here, but I had a question in the Telegram group about how would you know if an owner can change values or what. And I wanted to just talk about contracts in general and just give you some information, things you can look for. Um, I'm all for, if everybody has knowledge about what to look for, it makes the space better. It can hold devs accountable. People can understand what's going on, what they're investing in, and it doesn't just hand all of that power and all of that. Um, I don't know what you want to call it. It just doesn't hand everything over to the devs. The devs can't get away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with, and they are getting away with a lot of things in this space. Um, and then after I talk about these contracts, I want to share with you probably the one of the worst um, lines I've ever seen in an audit, um, and it is insane. I mean, I don't know. Like I thought Hayes crypto audits were bad, but after I see this audit, I just am just yeah, it's just insane. I think there's just like um, somebody's friends with somebody or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, let's talk about audits. So or not audits, the contracts. First, we can see, what the balance is, what its value is. I've talked about before. If it's on not the main token of the chain, like this one's AVAX. If you want to view, I can actually just show you. Let me grab a contract here. Or if we want to do this is the BUS or the BUSD crops farmer. It's going to show 0 BNB because it has no BNB in the contract. But down here in the token drop down, it will show you other tokens that are in the contract, and this is where your BUSD is showing. And then if anybody sends any other tokens to the contract that aren't being used or whatever, they're going to show up down here. So somebody sent this token at some point while this contract's been around. So that was sent in there, and it's just going to sit there forever. It's pretty much dead. So yeah, so that's going to be the balance. Some things you're going to want to, some of these, especially BSC scan, has great analytics. It will show you, things over time. Basically, this is transactions that have happened. It'll show a balance. These ones are tough because they don't have BNB, and that's the only way it's going to track that balance. So you're going to see a balance if you go into the baked beans contract and stuff like that. So you're going to see analytics stuff here. Comments, I mean, most people never leave comments in these things. If it is, it's usually spam. But most of these never get any comments in them. But the main thing you're going to want to look at, I want to bring this up. This one, the token transactions, this is things that are going out. For instance, we can look at one of these. When things get sent to the owner's wallet and things like that for dev fees, all those kind of things, that's where these things happen. So you're gonna have smaller values of BUSD went out to the owner's wallet and things like that. Things that aren't gonna happen on other transactions, but they're just token transfers behind the scenes. The main things you're gonna want to look for are transactions, and I'll talk about that in a second, and actually the contract, and that's where we'll talk about a lot of things in this video. Let's go back into the toasted AVAX one. We can look at the transactions, and a lot of these things you can see exactly what's happening by looking at the first page of the contract, and the transactions is what's going on. Of this first page, I can see 0.1 AVAX went in, and I can look at this and see, sell eggs, sell, sell. There's another sell, sell, sell. I mean, just by looking at this, I can see that the balance is likely dropping because there's a lot of sells. There's one small deposit, which is buy eggs, and maybe 2/3 are actually hatching, which is compounding. So there's definitely more going out than coming in. Another thing you can do is you can click on the full list, and this thing will return like the last 100,000 records, and it's all paginated, so you can go page by page and look through this. You can go to the last, and if it's within the first 100,000 transactions, I can go back here and I can see this thing launched. This is when the contract was actually created, and they transferred ownership. It probably went from the dev to the owner, and then they seeded the market, which basically says, let's open this thing up and people can deposit. And then you can see all these big transactions flew in, 22, 28, 28. And yeah, they're all like just under 39, some of these bigger ones. I was told that they try to tell whales not to put in too much, but keep it under like 30 AVAX or some. They gave them some random number that's still too high. That's very obvious that people with more money got in first. But that's not the point of this video. So you can actually view transactions, and after you've looked at them, or if you want to, you could come down to the bottom, hit CSV export, and you can like dump all these transactions into a file. And you can import them onto your computer, play with them in Excel, sort things, figure out what's happening. There's lots of things you can do with this data. So that's how you can kind of read transactions, what's happening in the contract. I don't know. There's some guys that are like, it takes months to be able to learn how to read a contract. It's not really that true. If you know some basics, you can actually read the contract without reading a lot of code. So let's talk about this contract tab, and that's where the meat of this video is going to be. You got three things you can do here. You can view the code, which actually you can just see everything that the developer has written. You can read contract and write contract. These two, you're actually interacting with the contract through the methods. And let me show you an example. For instance, if I look at the code here and I scroll down and I find a method or it's really a function. Let's look at one. There's gonna be a read one in here. It's gonna be something like get something, like get referred miners or get my miners or get my eggs, and they're all gonna say like public view. So these are all public functions that people can use. And what the read contract does is all these ones that are like get functions, like get this, get that, you can actually view those on the contract, and you can actually run them without going to the front end. So when you're thinking of a contract, this is actually the program. This is actually what's doing all the work behind the scenes. This is doing all the calculations. This is running the entire thing. What you see on the front end is just JavaScript and HTML, CSS. It doesn't do any of the logic that's already back here. You can invest and you can withdraw and recompound everything without actually going to the website. You can do it just straight through the contract. The website is basically just a pretty view and a more human interactive version of an interface with the contract. It just makes it easy for you to use without having to know, what these functions specifically do. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's get the balance. You click on read contract, and this is going to be all the things that are like read only. You're not sending anything to the contract. You're not making a deposit. You're not doing anything that changes the contract values in any way. You're just getting information. Let's see. Let's grab one of these. Yeah, here's the balance. it already shows you what the balance is. It's like 11,979. It's going to be in a int 256 format, so it's going to be like this long string or long formatted integer, and it's going to move over a bunch of decimal places, and it's going to be like 11,979. It's a little bit less, a little bit different than what it is right now. Yeah, there it is, 11,979. So you can, get your eggs or get your miners, or, and what you can do is you can just get your address. Let me grab mine. Let me see if I can grab my AVAX. Grab a wallet from the AVAX that I know that will work in here because I've been in this contract. Get my miners. I can put in my address, my AVAX address that I'm invested into this in. I can hit query. It'll tell me I've got 23 miners. I don't have hardly anything in this thing. I have very few miners in here. And let me show you what that looks like on the front end. If I can drag that, it's over here. So your toast, I have 23 toast. I look at the contract, I query my address, I've got 23 here. That's all they're doing on the front end, is they're querying this thing with your address and sticking it here. That's all they're doing on the front end of this. So all these get functions, get referred miners, get my eggs, I can stick my address in there, I can query it. Yeah, there's lots of things you can do, and you can do all that through this here. So if you look at the code, you're going to see the functions that look like, let me grab another one. Blah, blah. Yeah, bean rewards, public view. And if we look back at the read contract, we'll see bean rewards. It's a public view. It's something you can see here. You put in the address for it, you query, it'll show you your rewards. Which is the decimal of this number here. That's my rewards that I can withdraw. It is going to move over the decimal place because it's that U int 256. So it's going to have a decimal 0.064, but there's 65, and then they round it off. So that's the reading contract. You can get information. You can see what your miners are, your eggs, blah 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 blah. You can do things to read information. Write contract is when you actually interact with the contract by changing a value or doing something. For instance, let's look at the code. Buy eggs, that's going to be one of them. That's going to be writable. We had another one, sell eggs, that's also a public one that we can see on the front end. Hatch eggs, that's compounding, that's something you're going to be able to do. Yeah, so those are ways that you can interact with the contract. Let me show you an example of this. You saw that I had some rewards available. Now these things interact with something called Web3. It's a way to interact with your wallet to the contract, and you have to be connected first. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit connect to Web3, because this is how it actually interacts, and it can show you. It can actually do things with the contract between your wallet and the contract. Let's go find one. Sell eggs. I want to take those rewards. And I'm already connected. I'm already connected here. I can see that, and I'm connected with my wallet. There's my wallet address. And I can sell my eggs, which is withdraw. That's what it's really called. It'll pop open my MetaMask. I will confirm that let's wait for that to finish. And we'll see if that goes up to what, 0.42 or so, 0.23, 0.2, I don't know. Yeah, and that's what it did. There we did. There we went. We already sold our eggs, and we can view our transaction. And I did that without going onto Toasted AVAX site, you know, and eating toast. So now if I refresh this front end, I have nothing left because I took it straight from the contract. Because that's, when I hit eat toast, that's all it does, is it's calling that sell eggs function. That's all it's doing. But you can see some other things in here that you cannot do. For instance, if I click right on renounce ownership, it's going to say basically this thing's going to fail. You're going to pay a whole lot of gas, and it will never happen because your address is not the owner of this contract. Yeah, let's look at seed market or renounce ownership. Let's look at these functions in the code. For instance, buy eggs, it says public. That's open to everybody. Anybody can do that. Let's go with, it was actually up here in this one. Renounce ownership, public only owner. So only the owner of this contract, the one that has the owner address, can run this function. So that tells us, we know which of these functions, because it's the only owner that can actually do anything with that function or transfer the ownership. They can send, if they want to transfer and make a different address the owner, they can transfer that to a different wallet. So all owner's fees and control of this would go to a different owner. Let's look at some of these other ones in here that are owner only. I'm not quite sure what this one does. Update REC address. Looks like they're trying to update some kind of address on this one. Update dev fee, only owner. So they can change the dev fee that they get here, as long as, in this case, as long as it's under 10%. They put a limit on this one. All right, update referral fee, only owner. So if we look at write contract, we're gonna see these things down here. Transfer ownership, update daily reward, update dev fee, there's that one. There's the update REC address, update referral fee. These are all those things that you see in the code here. Let me get back up to it here. Update referral fee. That's what that method does. And then it's got some bounds here. If referral fee is less than 20%, we can set it. If it's greater than 20%, we can't. It'll fail. It requires the referral fee that you're sending to it to be less than 20%. So they can't up the referral fee to 99% or anything like that. They can only go as high as 20%, which is still way too high of a bounds to be set. So they have some restrictions there. Now I want to talk about, let's grab, I think, is this the Toasted AVAX? Oh, the BUSD crops. Let me grab the B&B one. That's a really good example, and we can compare these two. Sorry if this is very boring and whatever. I just want to show this to you guys. The same thing, we go into the contract, we can review the code. Now, let me get down to where they can change some stuff. Yeah, these guys did a little bit different. They made it so that it requires the sender, to be the owner, to have the owner address. They don't have the only owner in there. Now let's look at let me find where it is here. It's actually this one up here. There it is. This one actually sets the percentage, what you gain per day. So this one, they actually required it to be a value of less than or equal to 20% basically. So the owner cannot go below this number here. If the owner, goes into the contract and tries to change this to like 21 or 99% or whatever, it will fail and they can't do it. They created bounds for themselves where they can't like overly abuse this thing and basically drain the contract. Now, if we look at, this is the Toasted AVAX contract. Let's look at this one. Update daily reward. Now, that means that the owner has a method in here that can update the daily reward. Now, if we look at the right contract, all the guy would have to do is connect here, come down to the wherever that is. Let's see, update daily reward. Put in a number. Like if you put in a 1 on here and hit enter, everybody would get their initial return every single day, and the contract would go down. He could put like 100 in here, and you would 100x within a 1 day's time. So he could put a gigantic number in here, wait an hour, and hit withdraw, and like take a giant amount from the code, from the balance. And if you look here, all these other ones have like these bounds set in place. For instance, this one's the dev fee value of less than 10%. But let's look at the conditions on the update daily reward. That's the only owner, that's the only person that can do this. It requires the daily reward to be greater than 0. That is the only restriction on this. That's the only restriction that they have, is it has to be greater than 0. Well, of course it needs to be greater than 0, otherwise nobody would make anything. But what if they put, for instance, this is the formula here. They have a comment, and this is the number that they'd put in. So if they put 0.05, you'd be getting, 5% daily, for instance. If they put 1 in here, you'd get 100% a day. If they put a 10 in here, you'd get 1,000% a day. If they put 100, you'd get, it just keeps going on and on and on. They could put, 10,000 in this field, take down the site, trigger this thing, wait for half an hour, and hit withdraw. And anybody that's got, any amount and withdraw, the balance would be gone in 20 minutes. So that's kind of how I'm reading these things. You can see what methods they can do, and you can see these you don't even have to read the code. You can come over here into write contract, and you can see all these methods that can be done. Update daily reward, update the dev fee, update, I think that must be the receiving address, update the referral fee. You can buy, you can actually buy into the contract using this thing. You can put AVAX in here and it will go into the contract, and you'll start gaining rewards off those. So that is why, guys, I wanted to bring this up. This is probably one of the most ridiculous audit lines I've ever seen in any audit ever made. This is the Toasted AVAX audit by Ethos Audit. So we were talking about that. Let me get down here where they actually mention this. They said they have a positive result. The initial review identified a number of non-critical issues and blah, blah, blah. But this one right here, this paragraph right here, let me read it out. I'm not a fan of reading things out straight out on my channel, but the dev fee, daily reward, and referral bonus rates are updatable by the team through function calls. We've seen those. This would normally result in centralization concerns. However, since the values are constrained, we know that let me just pause there, that one for updating the daily rate is not constrained at all. You could set any upper limit you wanted. And the team is well known and successful with the baked beans miner. Full transparency with the community is expected and most likely a mitigating factor. They're basically saying this method was added since baked beans and they stuck it in this miner, but because they're a big team and we trust them, it's not a big deal. That's really what this paragraph is saying. Yeah, I think this is crazy. I don't know if they just have friends over there. They even say, to conclude, the smart contract does what it's designed to do and is not ruggable by the owner. I've shown that it is definitely ruggable by the owner. They could basically post, if they got a Wales chat going still or whatever, they can say, site's going down at this time, we're going to ramp everything up, get ready to take your AVAX out, and a whole bunch more out of that contract. They could literally do that. I'm not saying they're going to, I'm not saying that that's their intent, but I'm just showing you that that is exactly what they could do. So yeah, it's just crazy that if anybody else would have written that code and stuck it in there, they would have failed their audit. And these guys passed them because they say they're known and they're, transparent or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. It's just insane that they say that. I'm just trying to, yeah. Anyway, guys, that's what it is. But I wanted to use this as just more of just an example of what you could be looking for, how you can read the contract. This isn't really rocket science. It's, you can look at the code, and if you don't understand it, look at the read and the write contract functions, and you can get a good idea of what could happen. And then if you want to, you could dig into the code and find where it's going to say like function this, and it'll show like only owner or something about it requires the owner or something like that. So yeah, guys, that's basically what I'm looking for when I read contracts. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead and like the video if you like it. Hit subscribe if you want to subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next